Yo, what's going on, snipers, and welcome back to our Albuquerque Aliens Draft to Glory franchise mode here in NHL 25. So in last episode, if you didn't catch it, we had another offseason, and the team is still looking pretty good. We did lose a couple key pieces, I would say, for our first 2 years, those being Spezza and also Steen. So Steen, who used to be kind of like a top 6 forward at best, he was also like a third line center. He's gone on to sign with the Carolina Hurricanes, and we also lost our starting goaltender in Spezza, who has been a little bit of an inconsistent goaltender in the regular season the last few years. Had a really good season last year, and in the playoffs was actually a pretty good goaltender. However, we do have an emergence of a young goaltender in Giunta, so at that point it was like we aren't really trying to commit to Spezza long term. He was looking for like a 7-year deal, I think it was. So instead we decided to bring in Jason Giunta as the starting now, and he's actually listed as an elite goaltender too, so I guess we technically didn't really downgrade too much, which is nice. We do have a little bit of a weaker backup with Semenov, who's not really much of anything, but he's actually listed as a backup, so hopefully this goaltending duo can do a little bit better. And then we have some interesting players on our roster. So Delisle technically could be in the lineup. However, I feel like he's not really suited for the NHL yet. So I honestly might think about sending him down to the minors. I didn't really get any comments to suggesting that we should send him down. But I think George Delisle should get at least 1 year in the minors because he has not even played a AHL season yet at this point. So who knows how good he will actually adapt to our NHL teams. So yeah, I think I probably will send him to the AHL. Lambert could potentially play on that fourth line, but I'm not really too sure if I really want him to, considering he's a sniper. But I probably would throw him in if I was going to throw anybody in. And then Enroth could be like a depth option. Whitfield could be a depth option. And then we probably will call up somebody else like Bure or Zetterberg or Ahinen as a depth option just because they're the veteran players in the AHL. That way we actually have somebody that should be still a depth forward. So yeah, I think I'll probably put Lambert into this spot instead of Delisle and send Delisle down. I know I was mentioning in the last episode that we needed to make some adjustments down there just in case, but I think having Delisle down in the AHL for 1 season, I think that's good for his development, in my opinion. So that's why I'm going to send him down, get him some AHL top 6 time, and then hopefully that could help him out a little bit. So we need to go to our worst player on the team, which he technically is one of the worst players on the team at the moment, as a 78. And we will call up Zetterberg or Camilleri, or we call up Bure, or we call up, what's the other guy? Ahinen. We have a lot of 76s, so we have a lot of guys that are actually kind of close to being fourth liners. I'm trying to think of who realistically would be a good in that fourth line or a depth type of role. I feel like Zetterberg would be good in that type of role, but Camilleri was in the NHL a few years ago, and he was okay as a 20-goal scorer. Has had some solid AHL seasons. Would I prefer Bure, who was low lead at one point, and he actually was pretty good last season, though, 21 points, 44 games. Yeah, I think it's going to be Bure for now, but obviously I could call up the other guys if need be, but we'll do that. And let's just go best AHL lines for a second. And let me just make sure nobody important is scratched. Sagan got scratched again as I expected, okay. So we'll take out, who was it that I was going to take out last time? I think it was going to be probably, was it Bates? Yeah, I think it might have been Bates. Actually, Janicki's not really that great anymore at this. He's actually listed as a depth defenseman in the NHL, so then maybe he should play. It's got to be Perry, I think, or something like that, because he's only got low 4 potential, so we'll take him out just to get that low lead defenseman into the minors. There you go. That's good and ready to go. And in terms of potential players, I just got to make sure we have the right guys in the right line. So let's move somebody like Doig up maybe to the top line just because he's got better potential, or Hennessy up there. Try and get our best prospects in the best spots possible for them. Malaj can even win faceoffs, not really. Camilleri I would prefer to put at center just because he's not in that actual spot. We could probably move Peterson down because he's a bit older. And I think that's probably how we'd run the forward group for the most part. Defensively, we could always just move guys up and down if we want. And let's just keep that the same. Also, there is I think the leg that I was mentioning in the last few episodes of like both my series, according to the notes, that might be intentional that they have this like little bit of a delay in between things, which is kind of dumb. Because when I was going to a trade finder in my Islanders series, it was lagging so much that it was offering a trade for a different player. So I don't know why they intentionally added like a 3-second delay when you're doing this, but for some reason they did. I think that's probably is intentional. That's what at least Tactics and I were discussing a little bit. So anyways, there is that. I think we're ready now to get into the comments, and then we will get into simulating another season. This team should make it back, I think, to the playoffs, but I obviously am not too sure on how good we're going to simulate as a team in total. So the first comment is from Sound Taco. Says, wonder if the new Bjork strand on Seattle will adopt the same Maestro nickname as Oliver. Alvin Ashton could be the AA battery that ultimately powers this team to a Stanley Cup. The Kim contract is nice. It won't hurt you, and his ceiling remains in the 50 to 60 point range. Congrats to Spezza for securing the bag. And yeah, so Spezza did definitely secure the bag in Carolina. He got a nice little contract. We'll go over to his contract here so you guys can see, just in case you did not catch that part of the episode or you forget. But he got a nice no movement clause contract. He's only 25 years old, but you can see he's signed for the next 6 years at $11.19 million. And he's got no movement for the first 3 years. Then it becomes modified basically for the last 3 years of that deal. So he could get moved at any point at that point, but he should be a free agent, my guess, by the end of his contract, unless Carolina decides to re-sign him. But like I was saying with us, he was a little bit inconsistent, like his first 3 regular seasons. To be honest, not the best. Last year, he was actually pretty good, like could have been up there for a Vezina, in my opinion. And then his playoff numbers have been pretty good with a .915 save percentage. So it is a little bit of a loss, I would say, but obviously I didn't really want to pay him a ton of money. He was asking for, with us, I think, way less than $11 million, which is kind of nice to see. But we obviously didn't really want to commit to him long term. So he goes to Carolina, as does Stefan Steen, which is kind of interesting that they both decided to sign with the same team. Steen's just on a 3-year deal, just under $6 million with no clause on it. So he could get moved at any point as well. So it'll be interesting to see how good Carolina simulates in the franchise mode with those two players. And hopefully we don't have to run into Carolina in the Stanley Cup Finals this season, because or else that would be a recipe probably for disaster, in my opinion. And the last and final comment is from Michael Dose, who says, Alvin Ashton Kutcher is going to be a good one in the next 3 to 4 years. Hopefully he charges the team into a cup victory. And yeah, hopefully he does get us to a cup victory at some point. I mean, I don't know how long it's going to be before he actually makes the NHL club, but yeah, we gave him the nickname of AA, or also we can nickname him the Battery. I was basically saying because his initials are AA, same with our team. 2 AA batteries basically makes a charged item, so maybe he's the missing piece that we've been looking for all these years, you know? Because, like, if you have, like, a remote control, it's not going to work unless you have both those AA batteries, so maybe that's the same type of thing with our team, basically, is what I'm trying to get at. So I think we're ready to get into simulating. We were looking at our coaches and seeing which coach would be the best for us, and I think we're probably going to stick with Baines as the head coach. Technically, I think it was the second best team fit on the team, if I remember right. And then these other guys, basically there was a little bit of problems with them. So I think Wharton, he had a little bit of issues. I can't remember with what. Maybe it was the special teams. I know Nielsen had issues with the defensive core, and that's why we wouldn't go to him. We did also offer our goalie coach a contract, so we could see also how he fits our team, potentially too, if he accepts, but likely Baines is going to end up being the head coach for the start of the new season. Wharton was last year. Nielsen has never been head coach, but he doesn't really work well with our defensemen, so it's probably best to just leave him as an assistant for the team. So I think we're ready to go. Let's advance a few days just to see if that goalie coach accepts from the last episode, as we have our conversation with our head coach, Alan Baines. What does he got to say? Let's see what his season goal is. He thinks this team's good enough to compete for the cup as well. Okay, I agree. I think this team is good enough to compete for the cup, but obviously really depends on how good this team actually starts to simulate. Like I was mentioning, Senator Taku was mentioning, we did get also Kim back on a nice contract. I forgot to mention about that. So Kim was looking for a long-term deal. We managed to come to a nice little agreement, as you can see, for a nice 5-year deal at 6.025. I think that's pretty worth it, just because he's been a 50, 60 point guy. He could also exceed those expectations at any point. So it is nice that he also doesn't have a clause on his contract, so maybe we could have got him for less. But at the same time, it's not a huge issue. Also, Ristolainen obviously back on a nice, huge contract, so he's here for a long time a ways. We are having to run into Tuzzolino's contract being up at the end of this offseason. I probably should take a look at already what he's trying to get at, just because obviously the later we go into the season, the more expensive he might be. He's already trying to look for 13.8 for the next 7 years. Doesn't have a lot of organizational interest. So if I added a full no trade clause on this deal, That only adds the interest to the contract, not really to the organization. It might actually be kind of tough to get him on a reduced contract, in my opinion, but we'll definitely try it out because I think he's an important piece to re-sign. Obviously, Narena is also a pending free agent this offseason, which is not great. So let's see what I could potentially do here. I'm trying to think if there's a good realistic thing I could drop this down by. I don't know if I could drop it down by the old 85% trick. Probably not, because that would be like 11 million bucks, which would be probably too low for him. But let's lower this until it actually starts to go down by quite a bit. He honestly might be one of the highest paid players on our team. I don't know if I could go down by a full 2 bars, but I'm going to try just because I gave him a clause. 11.6, so that's pretty similar to what he was just making. I feel like it might be a little bit of an overpayment, but I feel like obviously it's worth it because he's a great offensive defenseman to have from the back end. So let's offer him that extension and see if he'll accept that. It might be a bit of an expensive one, just because we do have, like I said, other guys pending free agent like Narena, Del Monte, who are also pending UFAs. But I think Tuzolino is one of the key pieces to bring back for the back end, so I don't want to lose him. I'd prefer probably to lose Narena, even though I don't really want to lose him either, because I think he's going to ask for a good chunk. Capaduca's pending UFA, so this is a pretty big year for our team, because obviously if we don't win a Stanley Cup, maybe some of those guys are just going to be like low on organizational interest and want to leave us, and then maybe we become even worse of a team. But let's see if that goalie coach will accept now, which he does. So Dylan Bengoa is on board, so we will take a look and see how good Bengoa fits our team as a head coach maybe as well, even though we technically just had that conversation with Baines. I think we could probably still do that, right? So I could probably, yeah, I could still demote him. Okay, good. Let's see how good of a fit Bengoa is as a head coach. Out of curiosity, just to see. I don't think Bengoa will be the head coach, but you never know. So, and not the best offensively. Defensively, doesn't work on that top 6 as I expected. So, there's a couple of coaches that have issues with that top 6 pairing for some reason. So, Bengoa is one of them. So, yeah, Bengoa will just stay as our goalie coach. So, we will go back to our coaching staff. And then we'll go back to Baines as the head coach. And Bengoa can just stay as a goalie coach for the time being. Alright, so there is our coaching staff. I don't really know what to do with the AHL. I'll let the AI fill it out if it needs to. But let's simulate up to the preseason, see how we do in the preseason and in the regular season. Obviously, last year we had such a great regular season. We won the President's Trophy. I don't expect us to fully do that again this season. Tuzolino actually rejected the clause. He doesn't want the clause. That's kind of interesting. So what if I got rid of the clause? That's kind of strange that he doesn't want the clause. It's like, we're just giving you that so you have some solidity. It's probably because he doesn't like the organization, that he doesn't want a no movement clause. I didn't want to go to coaching staff. We definitely need to come to an agreement with him before the start of the regular season, in my opinion, or else there's a higher chance he might leave us this offseason. So, now he's trying to get 8 years at 13.8. So he didn't want the clause in his contract just because he wants maybe to be moved technically, which he won't be moved anyways. But we are going to just knock this down and see if we can get him down by 2 bars around. You know, he doesn't have a lot of organizational interest. I don't know if he will accept something like that. Let's actually put it up to here. 11.75 for 8 years. So right around the same amount as he was making before. We'll offer him that. See if he'll accept it. He gets an extra year. Yeah, he'll get an extra year on his contract, but he will not get those clauses just because I guess the guy thinks he could still get traded away, but he doesn't realize that this is a draft glory team. So, anyways, let's see how we do in the preseason and then obviously the regular season. And yeah, I think this team, like I was mentioning, could make it back to the playoffs, but obviously I'm not hoping for a President's Trophy necessarily, just because obviously last year was a curse for our team, and I honestly think that it is a bit of a curse in franchise mode. So we kind of want to be an average playoff team, and then hopefully we could go on a run in the actual postseason itself. So Tuzolino rejects the offer. The salary you have offered is too low for me to consider your offer properly. Okay, let's get back to negotiating. This first part of this episode is just going to be a bunch of negotiating with Tuzolino, huh? That's what it seems like, at least. Kind of sucks, but we are going to have to overpay maybe a bit on him, but I think you guys will understand why I'm giving him the money he deserves, just because he probably does deserve it. because he was making 11 million bucks, so he's not going to get a huge contract upgrade. Oh my goodness, now that jumped up to 16.55 at the start of the season. Oh boy, we actually could lose him. Because I honestly don't think he's going to be worth 14 million bucks. Because I think the lowest we could go, we can't go down by a full 2 bars. We just can't. Can I just lower this by a chunk? Let's see how much I can lower this by. Because he didn't want to go down by 2 bars. So, which means we could probably go to something like maybe 1.5 bars. Which is going to be like 14 million bucks. That's like a lot of our extension dollars remaining. That's actually insane. So at the start of the regular season, he's all of a sudden going to be asking for more and more money. We could always wait till the offseason to try and negotiate more with him, but that's also a risk. In the free agency pool, obviously he's going to demand even more maybe than this. I don't know if this is a great deal for our team to make. I don't know about that. 14.75. Because if we look at our defensive core right now, if we lost Tuzolino hypothetically, we'd still have Bell. We would be able to probably re-sign Norena. We'd have Tulipov. We'd have Hurd re-signed. Lee we'd have back still. And Whitfield would be a depth defenseman. Or we have guys like Ackerstrom. We have Bates. We have the low lead in Mahalik who's getting close. We don't really have the best defensive prospects in the world, though. We do have guys with potential, but a lot of them are older. I think I honestly should probably try and re-sign him still at that price point. Just because we don't have the best defensive prospect pool. Because if Mahalik was younger and he was like a 78, I'd obviously be like, maybe we are okay to let Tuzolino walk. But I think I got to keep on trying to hold on to him, even though he's asking for a absolute brick ton of money. Like, this guy thinks he's going to win a bunch of Norrises during the span. Like, he's never won a Norris trophy, and he's trying to get this much amount of money. So, it is a bit of a risk, and I think some of you guys probably won't like that I'm trying to give him his money that he's asking for, but I think we got to re-sign him. He's kind of a crucial piece to the puzzle, and that might honestly make us lose an arena. But let's do $14.75 million for 8 years. That's a massive, massive contract. We'll see if he accepts that. If he rejects it, I honestly might have to wait till the offseason to get into some negotiations with him. But yeah, this guy's trying to get paid a lot of money. That really sucks. I was hoping that he'd be not too expensive for our team, but that's why we let go of guys like Spezza, so we could try and re-sign him at least. So let's keep on advancing. We should find out here shortly, I think. And he's not interested in extending his contract at this time. However, if you improve your offer, I may change my mind about it. So yeah, he wants more than 14.75. He thinks he's worth 15 million plus. So that's a terrible way to start off the season in that sense. If we win the Stanley Cup this year, it'll make me feel a little bit okay losing him, but still, I don't like that he's not wanting to accept a contract at that price point. So we're going to have to wait till the offseason, but I am worried that we are going to lose him. But if we do lose him, I think Norena could flourish a little bit more because he's going to get more ice time, more power play time. But it would suck to lose Tuzolino for sure. But it honestly might end up happening just because that price point is kind of ridiculous for a guy that's never won a Norris Trophy. So if he wins a Norris Trophy this year, obviously it might change things a bit. But he also might ask for a shit ton of money if that's the case. So 6-2 in the preseason, like I said, I'm not going to really focus too much on giving goals. Like last season, we didn't give any goals, and our team had our best season yet, so I don't think I'm going to do any goals. We are actually a very good defensive team, apparently, in that preseason, which is interesting. 1.5 goals against, so who knows, maybe we'll be a good defensive team once the actual season starts as well. All right, I think we're ready to start up the season. We'll go a month at a time around and see how this team does. Obviously, if we fall off quite a bit, I will make some adjustments, but I think this is going to be a good year for this team, and I'm curious on how good the Carolina Hurricanes will do as well. We win our first game 6-4, lose the second game 5-3, win our third game 6-4, and then we lose to Utah 3-1. So a bit of an inconsistent start, but we don't really need to win the President's Trophy this year, as I mentioned. We just need to basically get a playoff spot, and then anything could happen at that point. Looks like some people are losing morale because of ice time, which is not ideal. Looks like we're having some pretty good offensive games, but also some bad offensive games as well. But so far, okay. Not too bad. One last game against Edmonton is a win as well. So 6-3-1 in our first 10 games. That's pretty solid. That's pretty solid. It is good enough for a wild card spot right now in the Central Division. So who knows? The Central Division could be very strong this year as well. So if we get a wild card spot, maybe we have a better chance to win the Stanley Cup because of that. So let's go another month. This is a pretty damn busy month of November. We'll see if we can win a good chunk of our games and stay above 500 in it. We do have a game coming up against Carolina and shortly, as Kolarz has been injured with a sore knee. That's not great. Kolarz was injured last year in the playoffs. He's out till the 10th, so it's not super long term, but do not like it when my top 6 gets injured. We just beat Buffalo 10-3, and then we lose to our former guys in Carolina, of course. But 10 goals on Buffalo, goddamn. I wonder how much goals the top 6 had in that game. Goddamn. Okay, Kolarz is back, so that's great to see. And he is fully healthy because we changed that back to fully healthy, so that's good. Where's a win there? Loss against the Kings. Carter Hennessy was injured in the AHL. We'll replace player for the time being. He's an elite prospect in the AHL. We do beat the Rangers. Columbus we beat. All right. Yeah, it's looking good so far this season. It's been a bit inconsistent at times, but also looking decent. I should try and find a way to get Dag more ice time because apparently he's complaining a little bit, which is not ideal because we do like our fourth line grinder. Delisle's up to a 79, so he is getting growth playing on that top line in the AHL, which is great to see. Hopefully he can make the NHL relatively soon. Like, he could honestly get called up for the playoffs potentially, just because he's better, obviously, technically than Bure is at this point, as Narena has been injured with an upper body injury out till December the 8th, so it's like for a week or so. But that's kind of a big blow on the offensive side of things for the defense. But we are still going to be 15-7-2 by December the 1st. All right, not too bad. So I guess we'll continue to assimilate. I don't want to go back at all at any point until the trade deadline, just because I want to see what the player stats are looking like and all that at the end of the season. So I'm not going to try and focus on going back. So let's go to the end of December, see how we do by the 31st. I did want to find a way to get Dagmar ice time though. So let me put it on my face for a second. Let me hide my eyes and let me go on over to edit lines here without looking at the player leaders, just so I could see this. And I can get Dag maybe some more ice time. So he is the same overall, so he hasn't lost too much morale. Maybe I could get him on the penalty kill, even though he's a bit of an aggressive player. Oh, he is on the penalty kill already. What about 4-on-4? Can I find a way to get him on the 4-on-4? Probably not. Probably not. I don't think there's a way I could get him much more ice time than he has already, just because of the strength of our top 6. So yeah, I think I'm going to actually honestly keep it the same, and I meant to go back to this so you guys can actually see what I was talking about. But yeah, I don't think there's a way for me to get him more ice time, because he's already on the 3rd penalty kill unit, and there's no way to get him really onto the 4-on-4 with the amount of skill level on it. So I think I'm honestly just going to keep him on that 4th line, which kind of sucks because he's going to lose maybe some more morale. Okay, so that is good. Let me just go back to this again, so that way you guys don't have to see who's leading in points, because I don't want to know who's leading in points. I don't think you guys do either. We want to wait till the end of the season to find that all out. Let's go to the end of December and see what we're like at that point. But for right now, we're in a wild card spot, so the division is still pretty damn tight at this point in time. Obviously, the Jets are the only team that's way out of it right now with 18 points so far, so let's keep on rolling, and hopefully everybody stays happy on this team. I'm a little bit worried still about Tuzolino being a free agent at the end of the season, but there's nothing I could do. I don't really want to just sacrifice our depth potentially to re-sign him for like 15 million bucks. So I honestly might prioritize an arena in the offseason potentially. There's a chance. It just depends on our salary cap situation. Because maybe we only need the one offensive defenseman, not two. Because maybe multiple of them is why we play bad sometimes. Because we have too many offensively minded players. I'm not too sure exactly. 18-9-2. Can we hit 20 wins here soon? And yes, we can. Nice. Yeah, this was a good season so far as well. Like, there's a chance that we could be up there for a President's Trophy. But like I said, I'm hoping that we don't win that President's Trophy. So if we could like lose a couple games in a row, that's okay. As Ackerstrom has sprained his ankle in the AHL. Sounds painful. Last few games, there's an 8-3 win over St. Louis. We have Ottawa and Toronto left here in December. We win the first one 6-3 and win the second one 3-1. 24-11-2 by January the 1st. That's pretty damn good. It's pretty damn good. That has us in 3rd place in the Central Division on 50 points. The Minnesota Wild are kind of running away with the President's Trophy, maybe, with 59 points so far. So I hope that they end up winning the President's Trophy, because then they could end up being out in the first round. But so far, so good in terms of not simulating too good and not simulating too bad either. So hopefully we continue that momentum going here in January. We have a lot of games on Thursdays for some reason, like 6 straight weeks of Thursday games. That's kind of crazy. So let's see what we do in January. Let's go to February the 1st. Hopefully we stay above 500 here. But so far, so good with the season, I'd say. Obviously, I don't know what's been good for our team, like if it's been our offense or if it's been our defense or it's been a mix of things. But hopefully we continue to find ways to win some games here as the season goes on. So Ackerstrom back in. That will make the AHL healthy again, which is good to see. Hopefully Delisle's having a good rookie year, as I was mentioning, because like I said, I could honestly call him up for the playoffs if we want to. We beat the Jets 6-1. We lose to New Jersey 5-1, so a bit of inconsistent first 2 games of the month, but that's okay. Then we beat Florida 6-2. Edmonton 4-3 win. I feel like our offense is pretty good because we've scored 6 goals in a lot of games. Sergei Tulipov has sprained his wrist. That's not ideal, but at least he's not out long term like he was last season at this point, January the 19th. Lose to Carolina 4-2, so we've lost to Spezza both times, which is not great, but that's okay. We lost in a shootout to a good Minnesota team, and we lose to the Sharks in overtime. That's still points, though. We lose to Seattle 4-0, so we are on a little bit of a losing streak, but like I said, a couple losses in a row are okay, just because obviously if we win that President's Trophy, I don't think we're going to win the Stanley Cup this year. So I'm hoping that we obviously make the playoffs, but I don't want us to simulate too good. I just don't. All right, let's see what we got here. Game against LA, 5-2 win, nice. Yeah, I think our offense is pretty solid. Ahinen's been injured in the AHL. That's okay. Let's see what we got here. Pascal Lambert's been injured with an upper body injury. That's the rookie. He's out till March the 3rd, so it's a little bit long term for an upper body injury like we've seen last season. But let's go replace player, and that will just give one of those other guys a different opportunity. As Tulipov has now been injured with an upper body injury, but it's only short term this time, so that's good. Suffering a couple injuries here late in the season. Ahinen is back for the AHL. All right, let's take out the defenseman. I don't know why the defenseman has better chemistry on that top line than Ahinen does, but I'm not going to question it. It's kind of weird. Let's go back here and see what we got. Yeah, we were losing a lot more games than I like near the end of this month, but it's okay. It's okay. There's a win there. 30-17-4. We did drop a lot of games. We were down to a wild card spot. We're only 2 points up on the Blackhawks now, though. Yikes. So it is a bit of a tight race, but we have... Basically, if we were in the Pacific Division, we'd be first place, which is kind of insane. But since we're in the Central, which is really tight, we're in a wild card spot. Even the Blackhawks, who are not in the playoffs, would be first in the Pacific. That's kind of crazy. So, yeah, the Pacific Division is having a easy time just because they could literally lose a lot of games if they want to. All right. Well, that's weird. Okay, let's continue to simulate to a day before the deadline. And, yeah, hopefully we could stay a little bit more healthy. Maybe that's why we've dropped a few games in a row as well. It's just because of injuries. Philadelphia, 7-0 win. That's beautiful. Yeah, I think we're literally going to have a really good offensive stats because there's a 7-5 win and stuff like that. There was a 7-0 win. I think the offense is going to be good on this team, and I feel like Tuzolino is going to be doing his best of his career, and then he's going to ask for like $17-18 million as a defenseman, which is not going to be happening. But I feel like he's going to ask for way too much money. I don't know if other teams could afford him either, is the thing, if he's asking for $15 million plus. All right, let's continue to sim. Let's see what we got here. Vancouver, 6-3 win. Nice. Yeah, we're definitely having some really good offensive games this season. So I don't think we're going to be a super strong defensive team based on that. But I think our offensive numbers are going to look really good. We are having some games that we get shut out or lose like 3-1, for example. But for the most part, most of our wins have been like 5+ goals, it seems like. So our team definitely has the offensive firepower, it seems like, which is great to see, even though we technically just lost Steen. Lambert is back. I don't know if it's Lambert or Lambert. I would assume it's Lambert just because his name's Pascal. Like, he probably was born in Quebec, my guess, but I'm honestly not too sure. Let's get him back in on his off wing. There we go. And continue to simulate here. I can't see what's going on, though. Oh, yeah, now we're at the deadline pretty much around. All right, 39-24. which has us still in a wild card spot on 82 points. Damn. But we're literally 8 points back of first place in our division. We'd still be first place in the Pacific Division if we were over there. The Stars are not too far back of us still on 79 points, and they've played 2 less games. So that's a bit scary, but I do still feel safe that our team has been good enough so far. But let's take a look, actually. Let's go after to the deadline, a day after the deadline, and we'll take a look at the trades the AI makes, just because it's always fun to take a look at what AI trades are going on. Obviously, we're getting soon to the point, though, where there's not going to be any real players, though. So at that point, maybe we won't even look at what happens, but we'll see if any former players get dealt at the deadline. But I did want to see, Carolina looks like they might be close to a playoff spot. Yeah, they're just fighting to try and get into the playoffs. So Steen and Spezza, will they make the playoffs is the question. That's going to be interesting. Let's go over to the deadline deals. And I'm literally having to close one eye again. You guys are probably like, why is this guy so cringe? There you go. That's good. Let's go back over to here. Boom. Oh, well, you guys can't see what trades are happening. Or stuff that's happening around the league. Alright, so San Jose acquires Declan Little. Don't know who that is. Osgood. Trying to see if there's any familiar names here at this deadline. Or if it's just a bunch of generated guys. Jack Quinn going to Dallas. I think that's him. Anybody else? Ryan McLeod to LA. Yeah, we're definitely in the stage where there's too much generated guys. Well, not too much, I should say. But Jordan Donovan to Detroit. Anybody else? Spencer Knight to Ottawa. Okay. Anybody else I recognize? Philip Tomasino to the Islanders. That's pretty much it. Everybody else is generated, so I don't honestly know how good a lot of those guys are. Like, if any of those guys are elite players or not. But let's go back here again. Boom. And let's continue to similarly. We're on 40 wins already, which is fantastic. So we actually did win those 2 games. Or actually, we won 1 and lost 1 in OT. But 40 wins on the season. Great to see. Let's continue to simulate the rest. Let's actually go to this game against Carolina coming up. And see how we could do in that one. But Carolina's trying to get into the playoffs. We're also trying to fight to get into the playoffs in a sense. So there's back-to-back losses. Come on, guys. We got to be a little bit winning games, just because if we miss the playoffs by 2 points, I'm not going to be happy. We're actually outside of a playoff spot right now. We do beat Toronto 8-4. We're back in a playoff spot, I think, again. But we are literally going to be maybe a team that just barely makes the playoffs this year, which could give us a chance to win the Stanley Cup. But I'm also kind of worried that we might miss by literally like 2 points or something like that. Let me just make sure I'm selecting the right guy, because this lag thing that they added is kind of dumb, in my opinion. So there you go. Wow, Janicki's up to a 77 name. Or Yannicki. I don't know how it's pronounced, but Winnipeg. 5-4 shootout win. New Jersey's a 4-2 win. Okay, there's a nice little wins. Florida, 7-4 loss. Not the best. Edmonton, 3-2 win. Buffalo, let's see, 5-1 win. We are now up to 96 points. Wildcard's on 92. So we are still pretty damn tight, because the Blackhawks are still outside of it with 92. But if we could continue to win games here, we should be able to clinch relatively soon. So let's go through 3 games. First one's against Carolina and Spezza. Can we beat them for the first time this season? And yes, we can. 5-1. Nice. Okay. That's good to see. So we do at least win one of those games against some of our former guys. And of course, too, Zelino literally just gets injured with a sprained ankle. Out till April the 1st, so he will be back for the playoffs. But not great to have our offensive defenseman go down at a stretch when we're trying to make the playoffs. We still have not clinched yet. Yeah, we're on 102 points. That's actually insane. The Blackhawks are only on 95 now, so they definitely have fallen off a little bit, but they're still trying to get into that last wildcard spot, apparently, which is interesting. So we should be clinching here relatively soon. Let's try and win one more game here and clinch the playoff spot if it is the case. Yeah, Dag keeps on losing morale because of ice time, so I am a little bit worried about Dag's ice time. I don't know if there's any way I could get him more ice time. But we are getting guys in the system developing well, so maybe there's a chance he's going to get removed from the lineup soon. Like, Delisle's up to an 81 now. He could get called up for the NHL playoffs, potentially. And I don't know who I would send down, but let's see what we got here for these last 2 games. 2-1 win and a 6-3 loss. We have clinched a playoff spot now, so we are making it back, which is great. And obviously, even though we have a good record, it's not necessarily like we're going to win a President's Trophy, so that's good. That's kind of exactly what I was kind of hoping for, is a season where we'd simulate good, but we wouldn't win a President's Trophy. So who knows, maybe we have a better chance to win a Stanley Cup this year since we're not going to probably win a President's Trophy. Let's go through these last 3 games of the season. Game against the Rangers, our final home game of the regular season. 4-3 overtime loss. Not a bad game. Can we hit 50 wins this season is the question. Colorado, 4-1 win. There we go. And Tampa's also wins. So we finished 51-24-7, which is worse than last year technically, but that is probably a good sign because last year we were a first round exit. Hopefully this time around we have a good playoff run. Now the question is, wow, the Blackhawks missed on 102 points just because of how tight this division is. That's kind of insane. The question I had though, damn, if the Blackhawks were in the Pacific, they'd literally be second place. The question I had is Carolina a playoff team? No, they are not. Carolina had a solid season. They actually miss out by 1 point. So we will not get to face Spezza or anything in a playoff scenario this year, which is great. So I am actually kind of happy about that. But I am kind of worried about how good they did in Carolina. Because even though they're technically our former players, I still want to know if I want to see them succeed, you know. So in terms of season sim, let's go to the entire league standings. So we were the 3rd best team in the NHL, only behind the Ducks and the Blues. So that's kind of impressive. A lot of good teams in our division, like Minnesota fell off a little bit too, so I'm a bit worried about that. But we were a really good team still, and we could have won a President's Trophy, but we didn't. In terms of offense, we were the 3rd best offensive team in the league behind New Jersey and Anaheim. I expected us to be up there when I was seeing us scoring 5+ goals a game, but we were not the best. In terms of goals against per game, we were not that great defensively. We had some struggles, I guess, in some defensive games. We were kind of like just outside of the top 10, so it's not terrible, but we're pretty similar, us and Anaheim, both good offensive teams with the exact same defensive results. Power play percentage. We had a pretty good power play, 4th in the league at 21.1%, like that. And our penalty kill, 86% was number 1 in the league. So even though we kind of struggled in goals against, our penalty kill was phenomenal. So that's actually a pretty good season, I'd say, for the most part. Everything simulated good enough. We also had 11 shorthanded goals, which was up there for most in the league. 22, 14, and 5 on home ice. 29, 10, and 2 on the road. 8-1 and 1 in our last 10 games. So I am a bit worried that we're going into the playoffs on a good note, because obviously you kind of want to be going into the playoffs maybe on a more average note than that. So I am a bit worried about that, but hopefully we could have a good run this season. So in terms of our player stats, let's see what we got here. Ristolainen on 96 points. Pretty good season for him. Only 29 goals this year, though, for Ristolainen after last year hitting 50. So quite a bit of a drop-off in terms of that, but he did have 67 assists. Also helped us out in terms of shorthanded points. 5 shorthanded points for him. Fantastic. Face-off percentage dropped down to 56%. His takeaways were not that good either, so I don't think he's going to be up there for the Selke this year, but he still had a pretty damn good year. Peterson on 64 points, 37 goals for Mauricio Peterson after getting put into the top 6 with Steen gone. That's pretty impressive. That's pretty damn impressive. Really good year for him. Shot 18.4%. And then we had Rick Kim, who just got a nice little extension, 62 points. And he has also generated an X factor in close quarters. All right. Not bad. Like I said, this contract I think is a nice little contract. Like, it's not one that breaks the bank too much. And like 62 points for how much money did we pay him? 6.025. Basically, he's getting paid like $100,000 for every point he's picking up, I guess, around, which is not bad. So then we also have Hector Cashman, 46 points. Not bad. Plus 23. Up to an 81 overall. So Cashman got more ice time this year. And yeah, he was pretty damn good. Doubled up his points pretty much. Had 4 shorthanded points as well. Face-off percentage still a little bit low, but still, Hector Cashman's not doing too bad. I like that. So he's cashing in. Heatley, 24 points. Pretty solid rookie year for him as well. All right, okay, so I do really like the way our center's simulated. Definitely can see why we're a good offensive team. Like, we were one of the best offensive teams in the league, but we don't have a single 100-point player, so that just shows our depth is a lot better than anticipated. Left wing side of things, we had Kohlers on 78 points in 78 games. Obviously, he missed some games early in the season, but he was pretty much healthy for the rest of it, so that's good. Del Monte on 76 points. That's actually a pretty good year for Del Monte. He is a pending free agent, so that could be why he simulated good this year. Hopefully, we don't lose him this offseason, but there is a chance. Yeah, Capaduca on 47 points and 22 goals. He's also a pending free agent. Hopefully, we could afford to bring him back. Lambert on 17 points in 67 games. Not crazy offensive as I was expecting, but didn't get any power play time, so that kind of makes sense. We had Dag on 15 points and 44 penalty minutes. Bure as a depth option this season wasn't as good as he was last year, but he probably was replacing more bottom six related guys. 5 points in 19 games. Right wing side of things, we have Staubitz on 96 points as well. I didn't even realize this. 64 goals for Staubitz this season. Holy crap, okay. Well, Staubitz is having a resurgence late in his career, which is kind of impressive. Glad we ended up paying him 10.5 because 64 goals is way better than anticipated. He had 45 goals the last 2 seasons. So he just basically jumped up by almost 20 goals out of nowhere. Like, he was not a huge goal scorer early in his career either, so that's a big year for a 31-year-old. And there is a chance that he could win a Richard. There is a chance, unless there's like some 70 goal scorers, but shot 21.3%. That's a massive year from our captain. And Washington, he's going to score nothing in the playoffs or something like that. But yeah, that's a big year. Big year. And then Doig had 63 points. That's pretty impressive too. But obviously, Staubitz, probably our MVP this season, I'd say. And then in terms of defensemen, we had Tuzolino on 77 points in 80 games and a plus 45 as a pending free agent. Of course, he had his best season yet. See, I told you that was going to happen because they always pay better winner in their last year of their deals. He's going to want a ton of money. And he might leave our team. The crazy thing is he's never scored a playoff goal. So I'm hoping that he could do better in the playoffs for us. And then at least we could send him off on a good note. But that's not great that he had a good year. Narane on 48 points, minus 4. Good year for him. So if we get into a bit of a cap trouble with Tuzolino, honestly, Narena might get an extension over him. Bell on 27 points, plus 51. Tulipov 14 points, somehow a minus 7, but you have to have at least one minus parent probably on his team. Hurd 12 points plus 23, that's pretty good. Lee and Whitfield both on 11 points, but Lee was way better defensively. And Whitfield actually had 11 points in 16 games. I forgot that he's our depth defenseman. So Whitfield as a depth defender is actually pretty damn good. Because I guess he gets thrown in where Tuzolino wasn't and gets power play time and all that. From a goaltending perspective, Gionta in his first season as a starter played 70 games this year. And he had a record of 43, 20, and 6, a 906 save percentage, and a 2.96 goals against. So better numbers than Spetsov's had in his regular season for the most part, except for last season, but not insanely good. He was better as a backup last year, but maybe the playoffs he'll be good. Who knows? And Semenov had an 872, so yeah, Semenov, not the best stats for him, but he did win games, which is okay, I guess. So goaltending is still a little bit of an issue, I think, going forward, but hopefully it's good in terms of the playoffs. And then in terms of the entire league, let's take a look at some stats here. Best point getter was Ethan Prust on Anaheim with 123 points. Connor McMichael behind him with 115 for Florida. Most goals this season was Staubitz. So Staubitz is going to win his first Maurice Richard at the age of 31. I didn't expect him to ever win a Maurice Richard with how he started off his career, but he was only one of 260 goal scorers, just beating out Lauren Moore. He also beats out Stutzla, Blomstrand, Matthews, Bedard, and Robertson, who had 50 plus. So really good season for Josiah Staubitz. Very good. Okay. Best defenseman in terms of points this year was Malachi Roberts of Toronto with 83 points. Then Landon DuPont with 78 points and a plus 66. He's likely going to be the Norris winner over Tuzolino because Tuzolino was great this year in terms of points and plus minus, but Landon DuPont in the St. Louis Blues looking pretty damn scary this season. All right. So there's defenders. Best goaltender in terms of wins was Sergei Kazanov of the Blues. I don't even think he was their goaltender last year when we played them. No, he wasn't. He was a free agent signing from Montreal. That's why I've never seen this guy before. All right. So he had the most wins. Gionta was number 2 in wins. Most shutouts by a starter is going to be Kazanov, Blomqvist, and Schmidt, all with a 6 shutout season. Best save percentage by a starter is going to be Kazanov with the 919. And Schmidt, I think, was up there too. And best goals against average by a starter is going to be Kazanov. So yeah, Kazanov is going to win a Vezina in St. Louis. Any goalie goals this season? No goalie goals. Actually, how did Spezza do it right now? Trenton Spezza, 912 save percentage. That's not bad. So he had a pretty solid year, but they didn't end up making the playoffs. So that's kind of an interesting one. Most assists by a goalie is going to be Ivankovic and Swayman with 4. Best rookie this season is going to be Nicholas Bjorkstrand. So there is the maestro that Sound Talk was mentioning. 70 points in 81 games. As a franchise, he's up to an 87 overall already. Looking like a pretty good player for the future for them. Smith, Pelly, etc. Okay. So let's actually also take a quick look at our AHL team, just because I am kind of curious on how the AHL players did down there. Camilleri on 66 points. Delisle had 61 points. So yeah, Delisle's looking pretty good. Like I said, we could call him up for the playoffs, but I might honestly wait till next season. But we're going to have to definitely figure out who's going to be a scratch going forward, because Delisle would have to jump into our lineup next season, and somebody would have to be moved out to get him in. Milosh had 56 points. That's also pretty good. 77 overall. Low elite. So we do have some guys that are going to be getting close to the NHL next season, which is great to have our AHL guys starting to take over a little bit. And in goaltending-wise, Harakala had a 914. He's also getting pretty close to being a backup goalie for us. Might honestly be our backup next season, because Semenov is not a hugely great goaltender. So really good season for this team. Now the question is, who are we going to be playing in the first round of the playoffs? And is it a team we could beat? And are we actually going to have a good run this year in the playoffs too, is the question. We are going to be taking on the Minnesota Wild. So Minnesota fell off a little bit. They do finish a little bit below us. So this is pretty even matchup probably, as both of us finished with 51 wins. We had 24 losses, 7 overtime losses. They had 25 losses and 6 overtime losses. They're not as good in their last 10 games, 3-6-1. We are 8-1-1. So I am a bit scared that they were a good team this season. But you can see the comparison in terms of regular season. We were 3rd in goals for. They were 8th in goals for. They were 2nd in goals against. We were 11th. And then in terms of power play percentage, or is that last year's playoffs? I think, actually no, this could be this year. Yeah, this is this year, I think, yeah. 4th year, and penalty, our power play percentage for us, 16th for them. They were 2nd in the penalty kill. We were 1st on the penalty kills. So we're both good on the penalty kill. They're a good 5-on-5 defensively. We're better offensively 5-on-5, and also have the better power play as well. So it could be a pretty even matchup based on that, which hopefully we could beat them. We have played them, I think, multiple times at this point in time too. So let's take a look at what Minnesota is looking like on paper. I would assume they look pretty similar to past years, but they could have made some adjustments. We know that they have Wallstead still, but I don't really know who else is still there. Matt Boldy probably is. Yeah. So first line has Gavin McKenna at 29 years old with Riley Height, and Kirill Kaprizov is still playing at 39. So very solid top line. Second line has Jaeger. They also have Iginla and Boldy. So very solid second line. Boldy's dropping off a bit, but he still could produce. And we know he did well against us, I think it was last year when we played them. Or was it last year that we played them, or 2 years ago? I honestly don't remember. It was not last year. It was 2 years ago, I guess, at this point. Yeah, it was 2 years ago. Because we played them in round 2 a couple times, I think. Or no, we played them in the first round in our first ever playoff series, and then we played them in round 2 2 years ago. So we have played them a couple times. Third line has Alexei Protas. They also have Marco Rossi and Bradley Nadeau, I think. Yeah, Bradley Nadeau. And a fourth line of Simon Knack, as well as Richard Duras. And what's Philman's name? Josh Philman. All right. Yeah, that's a pretty solid offensive core. They don't really have a set weakness. They don't have that superstar other than McKenna and Kaprizov, I'd say. But it is a good top 6. It's a good bottom 6. What about their defensive core? They have Francois Massenoev. They also have Mr. Brock Faber. So kind of a weak top 2. I mean, Faber's good, but Massenoev kind of more suited as a top 6 defenseman / top 4. He was drafted 7th round, 231st overall. So huge good steal there for the Minnesota Wild. They also do have Rod Hedican and Topi Niemela. Yep, Topi Niemela. They also have Tony McCabe and Mr. Tristan Luno. So in terms of that defensive core, a little bit weaker on the left side of things, good on the right side of things. I wouldn't say it's the best defensive core in the world, but it did simulate apparently good during the regular season. And then goaltending there is Wallstead. Obviously, we know Wallstead's a good goaltender. And their backup is Brian Agon, who was not with them last time we played them, I don't think. If I remember right, yeah, it looks like he was in the AHL for a few seasons as well, so he's kind of a fringe NHL goaltender at this point. In terms of scratch players, they have Chase Wheatcroft, what else they got here? Maxim Volchenkov, and another Protas, Ilya Protas. Interesting. Wait, that's a real player? Ilya Protas? So Alexei Protas and Ilya Protas are brothers, I guess? I would assume. I didn't realize that Alexei had a brother. And they were both drafted by the Capitals, and now they're both in Minnesota here. Let me look that up here, because I honestly don't even know. Oh yeah, he is a real player, okay. That's interesting that they both somehow ended up in Minnesota. Was not expecting that. Yeah, they're both brothers, okay. So Alexei was already in Minnesota last time when we played them, I'm pretty sure. Ilya was not, though. Ilya was in the AHL. And he just played one NHL game and scored his only goal. That's actually pretty insane. Okay, that's kind of neat. It's kind of neat, but I don't care about them having two brothers playing on the same team. I really hope that we could beat them, because this is definitely going to be still a pretty tough matchup, even though we had a good season again. I am a little bit scared that Minnesota, since they fell off a bit, that they could have the upper hand, but honestly don't really know who's the favorite going into this matchup. But anyways, guys, that's going to do it for this episode of our Albuquerque Aliens Draft to Glory franchise mode. So in next episode, we'll take it to the first round of the playoffs against the Minnesota Wild, as we look to hopefully have a better outcome than last year, because last year was a great regular season and then it fell apart in the playoffs. So hopefully we have a good run this season, and hopefully last more than at least one round. So I think down below, and I'll see you guys next time.